When the DeepSeek large language model first came out, the market was totally shocked. This was the first major Chinese competitor to the existing large AI incumbents. And it really revolutionized the market as they had developed a very cheap, very fast, and very effective large language model. In this expert advisor, they are claiming to be using DeepSeek in order to make trading decisions. Let's dive in to see if it's actually using DeepSeek or if it's just another fake AI scam. This video is sponsored by Prosperity Algo and our free Golden Time Bomb Expert Advisor. Do you want to make 100+% annual returns through automating the London breakout and the opening range breakout? Then click the link in the description. So here it's really leaning heavily on the use of DeepSeek to make trading decisions. And supposedly this bot is trading gold, I think on the H1 time frame to be precise. And it says that it's meant to really thrive in high volatility conditions while simultaneously being prop firm compatible. So that's quite a unique approach, and that usually means that there's ideally no grid martingale going on if it's prop firm compatible, but sometimes developers will just say prop firm compatible to sell the product without it actually being able to be compliant with the rules. And here he's really leaning on the different types of AI technology which this bot supposedly uses. So he's saying that there's an optimization kernel, that there's a neural mesh layer, and a time warp calibration engine. So it sounds somewhat like Star Trek here, but effectively he's name dropping some common like AI-based technologies and actually certain terminology which you would usually see in more of the machine learning space. But once again, we really have no idea if it's actually using this here, because from what I can see so far, he's not really showing a bunch of information in regards to the technical analysis strategy which is underlying the bot. He's just like name dropping a bunch of more AI related terminology. And that's not usually a great sign, because even if you develop an AI based bot, and making these large language bots is not actually that challenging. Like I've done it as well. You simply like send an API call to any of the big large language model providers, be it OpenAI or Claude or Gemini, and effectively ask a question. And then using the response that they send back to you, you can then use that either as a trigger and or a filter for a trading strategy. However, people who use AI effectively, both in the MT5 world as well as like even like professional quantitative funds, typically you don't use the machine learning model as your trigger. You generally use it as a filter. And what that could look like is, let's say you're doing a very simple breakout strategy of a channel. That could be your trigger. But if whether or not you want to set a channel on only a high or only a low because you think the market is bearish or bullish, that would be a great example of where you could use the large language model. So you could ask the like ChatGPT API, hey, is gold currently in more of a bullish uptrend or a bearish downtrend? If it's in a bullish uptrend, you would then look to place only a buy stop or some sort of like market entry in more of a long position. Whereas if ChatGPT said like, nope, we are firmly in a bearish market, you could then look to only place a sell stop or only take sell trades. And that's really the best application here. But usually you need to have a bit more information to see how that actually works. So I'll press play on this video quickly.
Welcome to a new era of intelligent trading, introducing AI DeepSeek Dynamics. Outdated strategies, no martingale, no grid traps. Experience multi-layered algorithms.
Okay, so we can look at that a bit more in detail, but I do think that effectively it's going to be similar wordage to what's being used in the sales page. I mostly was looking to see if there was actually the developer speaking, because sometimes that'll give you a bit more information, but that did sound like an AI voice to me, so I don't think we'll get a ton more information from that. And here we're just seeing some kind of similar generic AI terminology. We are seeing that he is using a quant analyzer report. So nothing particularly special here. With any of these bots, the most important thing to look for is, do they actually give you a place to put in an API key? Because none of these models necessarily work for free. I think DeepSeek does have some free capabilities, but even if they do, you still need to actually have an API key to access the API. So if somebody says like, yes, this bot uses AI, but they don't actually show you how to get an API key, most likely they're lying to you, because ultimately you need to be able to actually like send a query, and to send a query you need to have a key. It's almost like a password to access your computer. Without the password, you won't even be able to properly unlock your computer. And let's kind of go to the installation page for that example. And what he's showing us here is that he is giving us actually the URL, and he's telling us that we have to enable web requests to it. But from what I can see here so far, he's not actually showing us how to get an API key. And that's not a great sign. So when we actually run this on MT5, we can see if he's left an input for an API key. And if not, I highly doubt that this bot is actually using AI. Now we can go to some of his live signals, and from what we can see so far, they're all looking like rather magnificent, with effectively like 100+% win rates on very small deposits. So this is not a great sign, because he's made a whole cluster of different live signals, most of which have very small deposits in them, and he's using high leverage. And that's never good, because essentially he's probably just taking different trades and randomizing the signals, and when one goes down, he'll put another one up. And that's not awesome, because it's just he's gaming the system a little bit. So if you ever see a signal, it's even less important if it's demo versus live. It doesn't really make a massive difference depending on the type of strategy. But the thing that really makes a big difference is how many trades do you have, and are you seeing losers and winners? If you only see 10 trades with only 100% winners, that doesn't tell you how it actually performs, because any real system will also take losses. So when you're evaluating a signal, at least what I care about is a ton of trades, and ideally you want to see a nice mix of winners and losers, but obviously with a positive expected value. And that enables you to see like how the bot actually works and what trading decisions it's taking. So let's hop over to MT5 now, and you guys can see I've taken the liberty of running this beautiful backtest where it turned $10,000 into around $149,000 within the span of a year. Oh, sorry, actually it turned $1,000 into $139 or $126,000 in the span of a year. And then here we took only one loss throughout the entire period, close to when the bot was actually published. So that's also not a very good sign. And obviously this backtest performance is extremely fake, right? Like there's no way you're going to turn $1,000 into $130,000 within a year. That's just, if that was the case, nobody would ever sell the bot. It would be the absolute holy grail. There's not a tremendous amount of trades here, and it did run reasonably quickly. Therefore, I don't think it's over-optimized. I don't think it's a history reader. I think he's just kind of cherry-picked the trades. So you can effectively say, like, you can pick 200 trades which were profitable, and you can simply tell it in backtesting to take those particular trades. Obviously, that's like the most overfitting that you could ever possibly do if you literally cherry pick the trades. So this performance will not be shown live. And now kind of for the moment of truth here, let's go and look to see if there's a place to put in a model or an API key. So you can pick the model, but then there's no actual place to input an API key. So trailing stop, prop firm, news filter, DeepSeek Dynamics. Okay, so it's not even DeepSeek Dynamics. And yeah, okay, so there's no place to actually put in an API key. So this is not looking good, right? Like there's not even, it seems to be taking more of a mean reversion type strategy. So I venture that he's probably running this with some sort of oscillator or Bollinger Band, just because they're really easy to code and it doesn't really take a ton of effort. At the same time, there's no real strategy here. He's just cherry picking trades, and he's claiming to use DeepSeek, but he's not actually showing how one would go about using DeepSeek. So I'm quite sure this is just a fraudulent bot. I would strongly recommend that you guys save your money and you stay away. There's no discernible strategy going on here. He doesn't actually tell us how the bot is taking trades. He just massively overfit some Bollinger Bands and or some sort of indicator-based system. Really, this type of strategy also is very hard to make work on gold. Doing like some sort of very simplistic mean reversion strategy on an extremely trending asset is usually not a great idea. And that's why I'm more like, if you did this in an Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar, maybe you could have some sort of positive expected value. But yeah, it's not a great bot. Definitely stay away. And leave me a comment if I missed something, because sometimes I am missing something, and love to hear from you guys when I am. Take care. Have a great day.